security, all indicators pointed back to Huntsville, Alabama, and Redstone Arsenal. We have the right people at the right place at the right time. Mr. President, on behalf of the people of the 5th Congressional District and all of Alabama, thank you for keeping your word. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Anybody?
Let me just say, Mr. President, I want to say thank you. And thank you for doing this, because it was the right thing to do. When they looked at all the numbers, Huntsville was the place to go, and like you say, it was unfortunately pulled out, but you made it right. So I want to just say thank you again for a grateful nation, and to the state of Alabama, we're very grateful. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Throughout history, militaries has always understood that whoever could hold the high ground held the advantage. Space is the ultimate high ground. And what we're doing with moving the Space Command to Huntsville is absolutely critical to our maintaining dominance in that sphere. And it goes hand in hand with what we're trying to do with the Golden Dome and missile defense, to defend against anyone else who tries to enter that sphere. So thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. And obviously, national defense is a huge issue. And when you look at the scores, Alabama was #1, and for political reasons, it was moved out of our state. But Mr. President, thank you for making priorities the defense and the warfighter and the safety of this nation. And in the big, beautiful bill, that Golden Dome will be built in Huntsville, Alabama, and we're grateful for that. Thank you.
Listen, as chairman of the Armed Services Committee, I care very much about what's most important for our national security. And the president held a nationwide competition to determine where we should have this command. If y'all remember, at the end of that competition, where Alabama came in first, there was a lot of complaints from the other states who did not place well. He said, we'll do it over with new criteria to accommodate your concerns. Alabama came in first in that second competition. His Secretary of the Air Force reviewed the results, said it was fair, and the president named Huntsville. It was the Biden administration that decided to make it political, even though his own Secretary of the Air Force said it was a fair competition and it should be in Huntsville. So I want you to know I appreciate this president standing up and being strong and saying he's going to make this right and put it where it rightfully belongs, and that's Huntsville, Alabama.
Thank you very much. Good job. Appreciate it. So thank you all very much. You are going to leave me alone now? You're not going to call me anymore and talk about this subject, right? You promise? They'll start something else. But I just want to congratulate you. It's a very big deal. When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that, and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago, and our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it if we didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing, and you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. Do you have any questions, please? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Tuberville talked about the cost savings associated with this announcement. Can you talk about the strategic benefits by having Space Force Command headquartered in Huntsville?
Well, it just works because we have so much else there. And having a central, you could call it a central command, but it really is a command station. Also, even locationally, where it is, and when you think about flying distances, if you can save a half an hour as fast as some of these planes go and things go, and even the rockets go, if you can save by having the best location. So we went out, as you know, to experts, and we had 4 different groups of experts. They all said this was the best location. I also loved it from the standpoint, I know the people of Alabama, they are great people, work hard, and there's no games, and they're very proud of it. And I would say they fought harder for it than anybody else also. A lot of states, 5 states really wanted it, but they wanted it more. And I kid you not when I say that these people they spoke to me a lot. That's all they wanted to talk about. They didn't want to talk about the weather. They only wanted to talk about moving to this location, moving to Alabama, Huntsville in particular. So we're honored to do it. They really wanted it badly, and they got it. Peter?
President Trump, something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see it for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, and I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own, pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff.
I'm glad it's
Well, it's fake news. You know, it's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people, no, I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent. Go ahead, Peter.
Something else. We know that this country has a huge problem with school shootings. You've said that you were open to sending the National Guard pretty much anywhere. Would you ever consider sending an armed National Guardsman to every school?
Well, we have a big problem with school shooting, but we also have thousands and thousands of schools that run perfectly. You know, they talk about you can do things construction-wise, and that's really, I think nobody knows more about construction than me. You can build the construction doors. You can build what they call safety doors, where they lock on the outside, the inside, and every place else. Well, but if one of these lunatics happens to get through, then the police can't get in. Then they're looking for keys all over the place, and it takes a lot of disadvantages to doing, spending billions and billions of dollars and actually making it safer in some way for some of these lunatics that we're dealing with. But I don't think so. I've thrown out the concept. We have great teachers that love our children. The parents love the children. Teachers love the children too. And if you took a small percentage of those teachers that were in the military, that were distinguished in the military, that were in the National Guard, et cetera, and you let them carry. That's something that a lot of people like. I sort of liked it. I'd have to be studied, but they're trained. They know about weapons. You can't do it with every teacher because most teachers don't know, but I always thought that would be an alternative. But it just, we've had a lot of instances. Other countries have also. They have different kinds of problems than we have, but we do have, there's something going on, and it's a bad thing. Yes, please.
Have you spoken with President Putin in the past week? Have you spoken with President Putin?
Yeah, I don't want to. I have learned things that will be very interesting. I think in the next few days you'll find out.
Will there be any consequences if there isn't some type of announcement of a meeting with President Putin and President Zelensky?
Yeah, there will be. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what they do and what happens. I'm watching it very closely. Last week, they lost 7,000, between the two countries, 7,313 soldiers, to be somewhat exact, for no reason whatsoever. And they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, but, they're soldiers. I want to see it end. Yeah.
Mr. President, have you decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
I didn't say when, but the answer is, look, Chicago's very interesting because I watched Pritzker get up and say we don't need help, we're safe. But 2 weeks ago, they had 6 people murdered, and they had 24 people hit by bullets. Last week, as you know, it was 7 people, 24 people hit, and 7 people died. And then over the last 2 days, that was the crown jewel. They had, I guess, 9 or 10 killed, and 50 hit with bullets. And you have this governor get up, who's a terrible governor. Probably he and Gavin Newsom would be probably the 2 worst and most naive. They're naive. Either they're naive or they're very untruthful. And he'll say, we don't want any protection. We don't need. So in the last 3 weeks, he's lost almost 20 people killed. There's no place in the world, including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. Parts of Los Angeles are terrible. If we didn't put out the fires, and I mean the other fires, the bullet fires, they didn't do a good job with, they should have had the water coming down, like I said. You know, we had to release the water. We had to go in and release the water to LA. It's so badly run. But if I didn't send the National Guard into Los Angeles, I would be making an announcement today. I'd be talking about Huntsville, and I'd simultaneously be saying, by the way, the Olympics is not coming to Los Angeles. If we didn't do that, and even the sheriff, the top law enforcement person in Los Angeles said, we could not have handled it without them. So that's what he said.
Did you make your mind up on Chicago, though?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets. So let me tell you a little story about a place called D.C., District of Columbia, right here where we are. It's now a safe zone. We have no crime. It's in such great shape. You can go and actually walk with your children, your wife, your husband. You can walk right down the middle of the street. You're not going to be shot, Peter. You're safe. Everyone likes you anyway. They probably wouldn't do it. But it's so dangerous. And there are people in this audience that you've suffered greatly. There are people in this audience that have been mugged and hurt badly, and they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you were very brave in talking about it. You made quite an impression on a lot of people. I appreciate it. But there were other people in this room that have been hurt very badly just walking down the street in D.C. Washington, D.C. is a safe zone right now. It's a safe city. The restaurants are open. They're booming. You can't get a restaurant. New restaurants are announcing that they're going to be open. This took place in 12 days. Now it's 15 days, but 3 days ago it became what's known as a safe zone. It's a safe city. And this city was really bad, really, really bad. We took 1,600 people out, hardcore criminals that will not be coming back anytime soon. And we're very proud of it. You know, to have our nation's capital lose every week. You know, it was like years, many years, where every single week somebody was killed for many, many, many consecutive weeks. This went on for years. And then we had, last week it was announced that nobody was killed last week. And I made that announcement in front of a very distinguished leader of a country. And I'm saying proudly, ladies and gentlemen, nobody was killed in Washington, D.C. this week. He looked at me like, what's that all about? I say, yeah, we have a little bit of a crime problem. And we don't have a crime problem in Washington anymore. And the mayor has been very helpful, and the police commission has been very helpful, and it's been a great team. And I would love to have Governor Pritzker call me. I'd gain respect for him and say, we do have a problem, and we'd love you to send in the troops, because you know what? The people, they have to be protected. I saw today on one of your networks, not a friendly network, except really the opposite, I would say, very unfriendly network. And they interviewed about 12 people on this morning. Most of them were African American, they were black. And they were saying, please, please, please let the president send in. These were people from Chicago. Please, we need help. We need help. We can't walk outside. We're petrified. If the governor of Illinois would call me up, I would love to do it. Now, we're going to do it anyway. We have the right to do it because I have an obligation to protect this country. And that includes Baltimore. I saw where Governor Moore was asking me to take a walk down the street of Baltimore. Well, Baltimore is a very unsafe place. It's rated number 4 in the city, one of the most unsafe places anywhere in the world. But, you know, we took care. This was a beautiful thing that happened in Washington because we showed that it could be done. And this wasn't just sending big, strong guys, and they are big and they are strong. You know, we had a great decision from the Supreme Court that had to do with sort of talent. It had to do with you are put down based on merit. You can hire based on merit. So merit for a soldier or for a policeman is strong, physically fit, having a certain ability, not a person that is woke and got the job through woke, but wasn't strong enough to lift a gun out of the holster, et cetera, et cetera. No, I looked at the police. As you know, last week I went over, we had a meeting there had to be 300 people, and they were all very impressive looking. And when the bad guys see them, they're not going to do a thing. And so I'm very proud of Washington. It serves as a template, and we're going to do it elsewhere. But Chicago is certainly going to be high. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals. You know, we took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals, and they're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it. And we're not going to have those people. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone. It's a safe place. And you can walk, Katie, you can walk right down the street with, by the way, one of the biggest human beings I've ever seen, which is her husband. He was a football player for like 11 years in the NFL. He's a big person. But big doesn't mean anything when they have guns and when they have knives and everything else that they have, right? But you can walk right down the street, even by yourself, and you're totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a great thing. Yes, ma'am, please.
Mr. President, as you're calling on Democratic leaders across the country to work with you on crime, do you see your efforts here in D.C., including, for example, working with Mayor Bowser here as a model for bringing more bipartisanship in matters not only with crime, but also issues that matter to everyday American people's lives? So
Mayor Bowser's been great. She could have taken the thing, and then after I clean it up, they'll take credit for it. You know what they do is they take credit. Like, we cleaned up Los Angeles. We did a great job there. And it was overwhelming what was going on. And again, the police chief made a statement that we could not have done, there's no way they could handle it. You saw what was happening out there. It was going to be a disaster. We stopped it cold. If we didn't do that, would have been a very sad day. And you know, remember, we have the Olympics, we have the World Cup, we have all these things coming, and we have 250, all of these things coming. But I watched Newsom get up and say he's doing a great, he's not, we're the ones that did it, and that's okay, whatever it takes, but the main thing is but he got up and said, we did it. Well, he didn't want us there, and he's going to need us again because it's starting to form again. I see it. It's starting to form again. You know, we have to maintain. It's like maintenance on an airplane. You can buy it, but you have to maintain it. And if you don't maintain it, a good plane becomes very unsafe very quickly. So it's an honor to do it. A lot of presidents wouldn't do what I'm doing. I don't need this heat. But when I watched television last night and I'm watching the news and I see that 9 people were killed in Chicago and 54 were badly wounded with bullets, I say, that's not this country. We have to do something. And I do say this, I say this very much. I'm not speaking to anybody but them right now. I would love to receive calls from governors and mayors saying they need help. We'll help them. We have a lot of people. We have a great force. We have a great military force. You know, Pete will tell you that when I was running for office, and this was a big headline, I think, you know, probably got me a couple of votes, but you couldn't sign people in the military. Nobody wanted to join the military, the Army, Air Force, the Navy, Marines, Space Force, Coast Guard. We never forget Coast Guard because they've done such a great job. Never. But nobody wanted to join any of them. We were way below what we wanted. Every single one. The closest was the Marines, whatever that is. You'll explain that to me. But the closest was the Marines. But every service was way down, way down. And then I got elected, and our country's the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. Everybody's talking about the USA. They're talking about the job that we're doing. Everybody. We have the best economy. We have a very, very important decision being made by the Supreme Court because our country is the richest, the strongest, the most powerful. But if for some reason some liberal court, I'm talking about the court that just ruled, where even an Obama judge voted in favor of us, which I gave him a compliment yesterday, as you know. I said that took great courage. But it's a liberal court, and it's going up to the Supreme Court, who I think have been incredible people. I think they've made very wise decisions. But the tariff question, because without the tariffs, this country is in serious, serious trouble. We've taken in almost $17 trillion of investment is coming in. Most of it is coming because of tariffs. And if for some reason somebody wanted to be politically correct, I actually think it's unpolitically correct. I think politically correct is to approve it, because there's nothing so popular as what's happened to our country. Our country is doing so well. But we had a liberal court gave us a very shocking ruling, and that ruling is basically saying that the trillions of dollars that are pouring into our country, putting us in a position like no country is anywhere in the world, that they'd like to see us that taken away. By the way, a lot of the people behind that lawsuit, that particular, are from foreign countries, I might add.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residents upstairs and somebody is throwing a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generated.
So
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
So that's a fake video?
Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that, because there's cameras all over the place, right? Including yours. No, but every window, I've never seen a window that's, in fact, my wife was complaining about it the other day. She said, love to have a little fresh air come in, but you can't. They're bulletproof. And number one, they're sealed. And number two, each window weighs about 600 pounds. You have to be pretty strong to open them up. No, that has to be, where was the window? Let me see.
Maybe from the renovations?
Which is the window?
It looks like this is on the 15th Street side, I think.
Yeah.
So right here.
Yeah, those windows are sealed. Those windows they're all sealed. You can't open them.
What you were saying regarding the federal.
It's the kind of thing they do. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, you know, it works both ways. If something happens that's really bad, maybe I'll have to just blame AI. But there's truth to it, because I see so many phony things. I saw something as I was growing up, from the time I was a baby till now. I said, who did that? It was AI generated. So it's a little bit scary, to be honest with you. But those windows are all very heavily sealed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to follow up with what you were saying regarding that federal appellate court that ruled against you and your administration as it relates to your ability.
Well, they ruled against our country, the court, and they ruled against us before. It's a very liberal court.
You called it highly partisan in your
Well,
social
it certainly
media
is. It certainly
and in
is.
fact, it was along ideological lines, 7-4.
Well, except that we actually got one of the Obama judges that was appointed by President Obama voted in favor of the tariffs, because he felt it was imperative for our country to thrive and survive even. And I gave him credit. I said, you know what? That took a lot of courage for him to do it, because you don't see that often.
So my question is, I suspect you're going to appeal that all the way to the Supreme Court.
Well, we already have, yeah. In fact, we're doing something else. We're going to be going to the Supreme Court, we think, tomorrow, because we need an early decision. I mean, look, the financial fabric of our country, we're a rich, incredible country right now. And we're able to, you know, other countries use tariffs on us for years, and we never did. I did a lot during my first term, but then we had COVID and we had to focus on other things. You couldn't be tariffing Italy, Spain, France as they were dying by the thousands and millions. But we did with China, and China paid us billions and billions of dollars. And I started the process, but then I had to end it a little bit because of COVID. We focused on that. But no, it's a very important decision. And frankly, if they make the wrong decision, it would be a devastation for our country. We've taken in trillions of dollars. And by the way, all these countries signed agreements. As an example, they're all happy. Everybody's happy. But some whack job put in a lawsuit. It went before a very liberal court, and the liberal court ruled, it was 11, they ruled 7-4, with one of the most liberal of them all voting in our favor because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an expedited ruling because, when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that. Because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs. If you look at AI, all of those, all of that money that's going to be invested, trillions and trillions of dollars, the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, I suspect. It's the internet plus 3 or 4 other things combined. We are leading very substantially with AI. We're leading because of tariffs. We're leading because of talent, and this is where they'd like to be. But without the tariffs, we wouldn't have a chance because we wouldn't be able to protect those investments of the companies coming in. So if you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. That's how big the ruling. So we're asking for an expedited ruling.
As a backstop to that, President, you have a Republican-controlled Congress. You control the House. You control the Senate.
Yeah, but we don't have 60 votes. We don't have 60 votes. I'd love to do that. Oh, if we had 60 senators, if we got the 60 votes, we would get them. But we need 60 votes, and we need a certain number in the House. I think we'd get, I don't know, we have about 5 of them here. Would everybody agree with me on tariffs? Without tariffs, we're a different country. We have taken in so much money. And here's the thing. We signed a deal with Japan. They're paying us hundreds of billions of dollars. We signed a deal with South Korea. We signed a deal with the European Union. We signed a deal with Europe. And those countries are paying us $950 billion. And they're happy about it. They're okay. As one of them said, it's amazing that we got away with it so long. One of my friends, a leader of one of the countries, and they're fine with it. They all signed. If that ruling ever went against us, I guess we'd have to give back hundreds of billions. We would have to give trillions and trillions of dollars back to countries that have been ripping us off for the last 35 years. And I can't imagine it happening. On a legal basis, they have no legal basis whatsoever. But on a common sense basis, it would destroy America. Okay.
You talked about controlling the sky. On Sunday, the satellite signal of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was alleged.
With Ursula? Well, she had an interesting event. She's a tremendous woman. And so what are you asking me about her?
NATO is concerned about it, and too, about this.
True, NATO is concerned about it. Well, nobody knows where it came from, but they did take away her ability to use a phone. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that could happen to me. I'd be very happy.
Mr. President, reducing the tariffs on India from 50%.
What does that mean?
Are you considering taking away some of the tariffs that you've imposed on India?
No, we get along with India very well. But India has, you have to understand, for many years it was a one-sided relationship. Only now since I came along, and because of the power that we have with tariffs, India was charging us tremendous tariffs, about the highest in the world. They were about the highest in the world, number one. And we therefore weren't doing much business with India, but they were doing business with us because we weren't charging them. Foolishly, we weren't charging them. So they would send in massive, everything they made, they'd send it in, pour it into our country. Therefore, it wouldn't be made here, which is a negative. But we would not send in anything because they were charging us 100% tariffs. And, I'll give you an example. Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson couldn't sell into India. There was a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. So what happens? Harley Davidson went to India and built a motorcycle plant. and now they don't have to pay tariffs. Same thing as us. So what we're doing is literally thousands of companies are coming into the U.S., car companies, AI, but, more traditionally car companies. We have so many car company factories under construction or being designed right now. And they're coming from China, they're coming from Mexico, I must tell you, and they're coming from Canada, a lot of them coming from Canada. But they're coming into our country because they want to build here. And they want to build here for two reasons. Number one, they'd like to be here. And number two, the tariffs are protecting them. And number three, they want to avoid paying tariffs. When they build their cars here, they don't have any tariffs to pay. When you build here, you don't have any tariffs.
Mr. President,
Go ahead,
in
please.
light of the Minnesota shooting last week, the Department of Homeland Security is now awarding more than $100 million to hundreds of faith organizations across the country to help them ramp up security. What's your vision for further protecting religious liberty across the country amid incidents of threats and
So
violence?
religious liberty is so important, and we're talking about every religion now, and we're doing things on that nobody else has ever done, and we're going to be having a big announcement in about 2 weeks on that question. Yeah, please.
On Space Command, sir, are you concerned that people may not be willing to relocate from Colorado to Alabama?
No, I'm not worried. It will get somebody else. The problem with Colorado is they have a very corrupt voting system. I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government. But they're great at cheating. And they stick together, too. I give them credit for sticking together.
Mr. President,
Please.
Obviously, this is a big win for national security, moving this to Alabama. We've all can agree with that.
Big.
Is there any idea of the economic impact this has on the state and on that local area?
Katie, do you want to answer that?
Look, go ahead, George.
Please go.
This is going to be tremendous. The state of Alabama, what we've seen through this process is the worst of Washington. We've seen politics get in the way of what is best for the warfighter, what's best for national security. And the state of Alabama is about to show the country the best among us. So we know the economic impact is going to be tremendous. There at Redstone Arsenal, we're proud to house everything from the FBI to headquarters there for material command to a number of things. We obviously have NASA with Marshall Space Flight Center, and so this naturally fits within. When you look at the decision matrix that they placed in front of us, that's why we ranked so high, is because we have the resources necessary and the ability to build out quickly to meet the needs in front of us. As far as economic impact, it would be tremendous. Does anybody have an exact number?
Jobs.
1,600 jobs.
3,000 spinoff.
With 3,000 spinoff. Look at this. This is teamwork right here. So we are really proud, and the people of Alabama are ready to get to work.
And I've got a housing question, if you could, just for a second, Mr.
Yeah,
President.
please.
Owning a home and going about the American dream seems like it's out of touch for a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
Just recently, you pushed out a statement about addressing an emergency housing situation.
That's right. We're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, can you just...
Well, we need a little help from the Fed. We have a man named Jerome Too Late Powell. You probably heard of him. He's too late. He's way too late. And the economy is so strong that it's pushing through that. Normally, it would have been much tougher, but we're doing so well that we're pushing through it. But it makes it very hard for people to get mortgages because too late is too late. Very simple. He's too late. And probably political, whatever. He wasn't too late before the election. Before the election, he was cutting rates, right? Because he was hoping that, I guess, Biden would get in or that Kamala would. He was a big Biden guy. Explain that one. And then he was a Kamala person. But he was hoping, I guess, she'd win, I guess. I don't know. It didn't work out too well. But, yeah, we need a very serious cut. I think that if you look back many decades ago, the United States was always the lowest. Even if they were doing badly, the United States was, because without the United States, everything in the world would die. It's true. It's so powerful. It's so big. And I made it really big in the first 4 years. Then it started to degenerate with what this Biden administration did. But we've built it up to a level that I never thought we could be at this quickly. We're the hottest, we're the best financially. The money coming in is so big because of tariffs and other things, but because of tariffs. Tariff gets us even those other things. Plus, it gets us great negotiating. I settled 7 wars, and numerous of those wars were because of trade, and numerous of the trade deals that I made were because of tariffs. It gives you a great negotiating ability. If that ability were taken away from us by a liberal court acting on essentially foreign nations asking to get help from the United States government, when they've been doing this to us for 40 years, that's why we have $38 trillion in debt. We won't have it for long if they let us, if they allow us to do what everybody knows we should be able to do. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, another Biden-era action that you're now reversing is that you signed a deal last week to make federal buildings adopt and embrace classical architecture styles again. Can you talk to us about why you do that, and also what's your vision?
Well, we want to see beautiful buildings. Now, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder. I've seen architectural reviews over the years. I'm an expert at it. I've gotten a lot of great reviews. But I've seen buildings that I didn't think were very good get great reviews, and I've seen great buildings get bad reviews. So, but it's just a standard. We want to have a good standard. We're building something here. You know, for 150 years, they wanted a ballroom at the White House. We're doing something at the highest level, using great architects and all. And, you know, it's very exciting. But we have a lot of interesting things happening architecturally in D.C. And D.C. is like a different place. And, you know, even the contractor said, sir, we walked down today, we feel like much safer. It's like a different place. Washington, D.C. is great. Now, we're going to also beautify it. We're going to put a topping on the roads. We're not going to rip them apart and take 4 years to build a road that was exactly the same by the time you build it. But we're going to put toppings. We're going to put new medians in. We're going to get the graffiti off. We're going to put tiles up in the tunnels where the tiles are missing. We'll do the whole tunnel instead of, you know, a little area where you see new tiles, old tiles that never look too good. But they could use it. You know, they've been up for 50 years. They've served their duty. But we're going to make this within about a 20-mile radius from the White House. We're going to have this place spick and span. It's going to be crime-free, and it's going to be spick and span. It's going to be, you'll be proud of Washington again. Go ahead, please.
Sir, China's having a massive military parade that President Putin and Kim Jong-un will be attending. Do you interpret that as a challenge to this? And are you concerned at all about those countries?
No.
Some sort of counterweight?
Not at all. China needs us, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi, as you know, but China needs us much more than we need them. No, I don't see that at all, no.
One more.
And I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if anything comes out of it. If it doesn't, we'll take a different stance.
One march today in California ruled that your deployment of National Guard troops to Los Angeles was illegal. Do you have any response?
Well, it was a radical left judge, but very importantly, what did you not tell me in that question or statement that you made? Pretty much of a statement, I think.
Well, I was asking for your response.
No, you didn't say what the judge said, though. The judge said, but you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can continue to be in place. That's all we need. But why didn't you put that as part of your statement? Because the same judge ruled exactly as you said, except the judge said that you can leave the 300 people that you already have in place. They can stay, they can remain, they can do what they have to do. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we are coming out of a big announcement that was promised earlier today from Trump, and the announcement is that the U.S. Space Command HQ is moving from Colorado to Huntsville, Alabama, and will now be known as Rocket City. And Senator Tuberville had said that this is a great day for country. It will move taxpayers. It will save taxpayers $480 million. Trump went on to say that it's going to create 30,000 jobs in Alabama. And then, of course, he stayed on longer after that announcement because that is what he does, answering a lot of reporter questions, anything about DC crime to Peter Ducey asked something about somebody throwing something out of a window. I don't know. That was strange. All kinds of questions. But I want to start in the time that I have left for DC Dispatch, by the way. This is DC Dispatch now. I'm Kristi Leigh, with celebrating that our beloved Mayor Rudy Giuliani is still in recovery, but after a car accident over the weekend. In fact, he's so well that he does plan on doing his show this evening. If you hadn't heard, our beloved former NYC Mayor Rudy Giuliani was hospitalized after a nasty car crash on Interstate 93, where his rental car got rear-ended at high speed. He's got a fractured vertebrae and some cuts and bruises, but he's already out of the hospital, as he said, in good spirits. According to his son, Andrew, before the crash, he was helping a woman in a domestic violence incident, showing he's still got that hero spirit. And he's getting recognized for that spirit. President Donald Trump just dropped a huge announcement on Truth Social saying he is awarding the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He called Rudy the greatest mayor in New York City's history and a true American patriot, with details on the ceremony coming soon. Now, I have a shortened show today, so I am going to get to whatever I can get to. But my guest has been waiting patiently. She is the praying citizen. We've had her on before. She gives the news from a biblical perspective and prayer points. So we're not left with a ton of time, but enough to cover what you have for us today. Lori, thank you for your patience.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, it's always good to hear President Trump. And he did refer to the subject I want to talk about, which is the shooting that happened last week at the Catholic school in Minneapolis, which if you miss the news for a couple days, it's gone and nobody talks about it again. But
right.
I think it's really important because what I see is Satan and his end times agenda to steal, kill, and destroy. He knows his time is short. He's working overtime, and I think he's really doing that with our school shootings and other mass shootings, and this one with a transgender shooter, which of course the media says, oh, never mind about that. It's you people of faith and prayer. We need to take action and not pay any attention to you. So I wrote about this yesterday in my Substack, which is right there. It's at loricollie.substack.com, and whatever I don't get to, we don't have a chance to talk about, it's in that Substack, and it's also on a video. But anyway, here's what I see. I see a connection to Babylon the Great from the book of Revelation, and in a way that maybe most people haven't thought about before. So I want to look at what's really going on behind these school shootings. And this is what I see Satan doing, especially with Robert Westman. We're going to call him Robert, even though he changed his name to Robin, because that was his birth name is Robert, a male. So the first thing that happens in these transgender situations is it's a pathway to self-mutilation, right? I mean, they're going to end up in the surgeon's office talking about which parts of their body are going to be sliced and diced and maybe reformed and whatever. So that would be number one. It's like a pathway into gore and death. The second one is mind control using the internet, which I kind of think is Babylon the Great, and we'll look at that a little deeper. And then the third policy of Satan is always blame and shame the victims and make the shooter look like the poor guy that we should really feel sorry for. So last week, if you somehow missed it, would be the shooting of Robert Westman of a Catholic school that he had gone to. He had attended as a child. He's 23 years old. He opens fire the first day of school when the children are praying, and the teachers are there, obviously, and he kills 2 children. A third one is not doing great, and then there are 17 that were wounded. Here's a picture of his family. Mom on the left, dad is kind of in the middle, and then he's on the right there with the weird hairdo and wearing the mortarboard from graduation. So mom is not in favor of this whole transgender thing. She works at the school. She's pro-life. They have 5 kids. They're a Catholic family. She's not in favor of it, but dad is. So the parents get divorced. I don't know when this happens in the timeline, but Robert is kind of floundering. So he goes down the pathway to transgenderism, which seems to be very in vogue these days. So not only that, but then he gets caught up in weed use, vaping, and possibly SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, a drug that is given for depression. And most transgenders are depressed, and about 40% of them get these drugs. Well, one of the side effects is ideations of suicide. So if they weren't already kind of suicidal, well, they will be once they're on the drugs. So he writes this weird journal. It's full of page after page after page of Russian handwriting, which I think is a demon. That's the journal there. The gun, it's a gun clip. You can see it says "Kill Trump" on it. So he writes in his journal, "I'm tired of the charade of trans," because he knows he's not a girl. "I've brainwashed myself." And then he says, "I can't control myself. I've been destroying my body through vaping and other means." So see, he's already headed down this self-destruction path. So anyway, he's deeply steeped in this grotesquerie that shows up in his journal, which looks like it's been written by a demon. He's got descriptions of violent fantasies. He's got satanic symbolism. And then there's this paper, one sheet of paper showing it's a target, and the head of the target is Jesus Christ on the cross with a crown of thorns. All right, so leading up to this action that took the lives of these children, then he killed himself. He had been working at a weed shop, but was fired 2 weeks before the shooting because he didn't show up, and when he did, he was late. Well, that's kind of a symptom of being being a pothead, right? But then he also thought he had lung cancer because his lungs from the vaping, I guess, were, just felt weird, whatever. He was convinced he was dying. So he thought, well, why not just kill myself and then kill all these other people as well? So the second part of Satan's program in all of this kind of stuff is mind control. And the enemy is using the internet. We all can see that. Donald Trump talked about that, with AI, and you can't hardly tell what's real and what isn't anymore. But there are these two grotesque sites on the internet. One's called 764, and the other one is Cult, but it's spelled CVLT. And these were used to groom him into becoming a killer. The groups prey on lonely people, mostly children, and combine images and videos of pornography with mutilation, self-harm, and even death. Several users on these groups have live streamed their own suicides. And it's like, there's a little police force on the group or on, this, I don't know how it all works, but they can't keep up with how these little weird groups keep cropping up and they're really responsible for harming people. Then the other group, which is Cult, spelled with a V, specializes in teaching people like Robert Westman how to groom children and manipulate them into providing sexually explicit content. So they start by getting the kids to do something innocent that's immoral, and then it gets deeper and deeper, and they keep breaking boundaries until the children go deeper and deeper. And they often host these watch parties where the victims are tormented in front of an audience. I mean, how sick is that? So somebody like Robert Westman could have gone from being a child who was groomed to becoming a groomer himself. Morality in these groups is seen as a weakness. Power comes from harming others. Now, this picture that you're showing there is... So he's got this weird symbol. You see it says "for the children" on the clip, and there's this weird symbol. It's called a cross of endlessness. Well, that's the same cross that you see this guy on the right wearing, and he is Robert Crimo, who killed 8 people at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park just 3 years ago. So the symbolism kind of ties these groups together. So during the MK Ultra program, which supposedly ended, I think, in the 70s, but the Unabomber was part of that. He was at Harvard, and he was brainwashed through MK Ultra, and that's a Netflix documentary. But we were told, oh no, we're not doing those programs anymore. That ended. It's old news. We're fine now. The CIA is squeaky clean. Yeah. And so, but you look around and you see these school shootings, and you see the shooting of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, and at the golf course, and you think, well, I think the stuff is still going on. Well, here's the weird thing. Robert's dad is James Allen Westman. He works for a government contractor called ESRI, which is a geospatial mapping company, and that's used by the Pentagon. So they produce, he's a contractor, and but it's high level. He's a programmer of some sort, and the information ends up at the Pentagon. And that's the key with the MK Ultra subjects. So many times their parents or they worked for the government. So it's just kind of one of those weird coincidences. So Westman says he brainwashed himself, but you look at what the steps of what Satan does, and you can see that the first thing in the MK Ultra type of programming is to cause a trauma. So that would be like raping somebody or making them watch a mutilation or watch someone else get harmed. You fragment the victim's thinking through drugs or shock therapy. You use hypnosis to reprogram the thinking, and then the assignment is given. Which of these things were possible through the internet? All of them. And so, if we look at this, we see Satan creating chaos through these types of shootings. It's horrific because he goes after the children. That's the most vulnerable in the society. And then, Kristi, which I found interesting, you and I had this text message conversation about the number of these types of shootings done by transgenders. And you reported people on Facebook saying that, how dare you blame the transgenders? It's not the transgenders, right? It's white men. Well, look at this chart. So if you scroll down, you'll see this chart. It's mass shooting rates by demographic. And
wow,
you see the top two, trans, male, and female. But you have to ask the right questions. If you're going to look it up on AI, you have to ask it properly, or you don't get the right, you get skewed data, which I think these people were getting. And look at this. I mean, call me crazy, but here's this woman who's Minnesota's lieutenant governor, Peggy Flanagan. She's wearing a Protect Trans Kids shirt, and it's got a knife. What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
I don't get that one at all. I did not.
Maybe because they're obsessed with the cutting off of the body parts.
Maybe so. I mean, it's just weird. All right. So then the last thing that Satan does is he blames the victim. So you've got this something called DARVO, deny, attack, and then reverse victim and offender. So that's how they downplay the trans angle, and they fault the victims instead of the actual perpetrator. And they use shame and blame. So what did you hear from Jen Psaki and from the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry, the Democrat? It's enough with your faith and your prayers. Enough talking about thoughts and prayers are with the victims. It's time to act. And what do they mean by that? Oh, yeah, take away the guns. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to also point out that when you have these stats, they're not looking at, you can make a statistic say anything you want to. So there's a picture there of this guy, Robert Crimo, the guy who shot up people in Highland Park. And I think it was probably an anti-Semitic act because there were a lot of Jews in Highland Park, but he's dressed like a female. They caught him on camera dressed like a female. I don't know if this was the day of the shooting or whatever, but they say, no, he's not trans. Well, and he's weird looking anyway. So yeah. And he was just sentenced back in April, 7 life sentences. So anyway, he's put away. So
yeah, that's one that they would probably say, oh, here's a normal white cis male that's adding to all the white cis male, which cis I don't even accept as a word. Like, you can't just make up a term for something that doesn't need a term, because it's the way God created you to be. We're going to make up a term to make that weird, but like, we're constantly hearing, oh, well, it's the white cis males they have to worry about. So they probably categorize this individual, who is clearly not your typical white cis male demographic. So it's all so dishonest.
Yes, and it is, everything about the whole transgender thing is dishonest, because it starts with being dishonest with the fact that you are who you are. That's your initial identity is your sex, and you can't change it. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you can try to dress up, you can pretend, you can get cosmetic surgery, but it's never going to change your DNA. It's never going to change, who you are. So anyway, I thought we would also, if we have a couple minutes, play Rosie O'Donnell. So I think it's just kind of sad. So she's living in Ireland. She comes on this video and she's got this enormous cold sore on her lip. It's like, Rosie, when you got a cold sore, how about if you don't make a video of yourself? I mean, really. But here she is. She blames, she calls Westman a Republican MAGA person, a white supremacist, of course. So we've got
about the Minnesota shooting, and it brought me right back to Columbine in 1999, when I just could not get it through my head that students in America were shooting each other in schools. And this was a church inside a Catholic school. And what do you know, was a white guy, Republican, MAGA person. What do you know?
Yeah. Well, she came back and apologized, but in her apologies, she still manages to blame, it's not a real apology. It's like, oops, I shouldn't have spoke so soon, but you guys are terrible and you're bad. And yeah. So, and here we go. We've got that one too, if you want to play it.
Hi, everybody. It's listen. I have a cold sore. I know, happens. Get run down. Anyway, I know a lot of you were very upset about the video I made before I went away for a few days. I didn't go online and haven't seen them till today. But you are right. I did not do my due diligence before I made that emotional statement. And I said things about the shooter that were incorrect. I assumed, like most shooters, they followed a standard MO and had standard, feelings of NRA-loving kind of gun people. Anyway, the truth is, I messed up, and when you mess up, you fess up. I'm sorry. This is my apology video, and I hope it's enough.
I actually really appreciate that she did that, because the reason I got in a Facebook argument was because someone had posted, just wait for them to blame this on trans again, and it's going to be another white cis. And then, so that's how it all started, as I was like, except it was a trans individual, and I mean, it boggles my mind, because these people are like, don't stereotype people and don't be hateful. But it's okay to be hateful, and it's okay to be assumptive, as long as you're attacking a straight white male. Then it's okay. You can't do that with any other race or ideology or anything like that. But if you want to be hateful right from the get-go, before you know anything, it's fine if you're targeting and stereotyping a white straight male. So this person never apologized for doing that. So at least Rosie O'Donnell apologized. That I can respect.
Yes. It was not a great apology, but it was still an apology, which is more than most will do. They just move on because the news cycle is so fast. So she talked about Columbine, which I thought was interesting, because back in '99, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, shot up classmates and teachers. I think they killed like I don't know, 28. That was awful. And that was the first big school shooting. And they were on SSRIs. They weren't trans because that wasn't a thing back then. But it's interesting. Columbine High School is located in a community that was created to house defense contractor Lockheed Martin, their employees. And there were 62 eyewitnesses who saw Dylan and Eric and then 2 adult shooters. So again, it's just the MK Ultra type of plot. And what also is interesting is Dylan and Eric had tried to break into a van before they did the shooting, and they were raped by the arrested.
Yeah, that was new information, Lori, that I read in your Substack. I had not ever heard that before. But Lori, unfortunately, our time is cut short because of Trump's long speech today. But as I just said, all of this can be found in your Substack. I encourage people to follow it. It's just Lori Colley, 2 L's at the end. Lori Colley at Substack.com. You can see it on your screen right there. Check out the whole article then, and I'm sure we'll be having you back again soon.
All right. Thanks, Kristi.
You bet. All right. Well, sorry about that. My show getting cut short today, but I'll be back tomorrow. So we'll cover whatever I didn't get to today, tomorrow, but keep it right here because we have so much more left for you and White House coverage here on LindellTV. Thanks for watching. I'm Kristi Leigh, and that was your DC Dispatch.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice.